Okay guys, welcome to today's training. My name is Joseph Vincent with A&E Office Machines, and this is the AE Touch Interactive Whiteboard. And we're going to be starting with the basics, basically going through every step. We'll break it down into chapters so that way you can easily find what you're looking for. From there we'll go step by step over the board, what we can do, like I said, starting with the basics, going all the way into what you can do as far as incorporating other documents and things like that you may have pre-planned for your lessons. So we're going to start with the basics. So it is basically a large computer monitor. In this case, your finger is the mouse. You can hook up a wireless keyboard and mouse, but most people, you can just use it from your finger being the mouse. So basically, if I touch the screen, you'll see that it's working just like my mouse. The right click of a mouse, as you saw, I held my finger. So if I just touch it, it's like a circle. Now if I hold my finger down, when that square appears, that's the right click of a mouse. So you need to know that for any setting, like if you're in a PowerPoint or something that you hit to close out of it, you have to right click. That's what you want to do, is hold your finger down until that square appears. I'll do it one more time. When that square appears, that's my right click of a mouse. So from here, as you see, it's basically looking just like I said, a computer monitor. We have everything, the functionality that we have, just like we would at a desktop or a laptop. So that's the best thing to remember. You don't have much new things to learn in that aspect. It is literally a large computer monitor. Again, you're operating it the same way. So if we want to go to the internet, we're going to go to Google Chrome. We just open it. In this case, we do have our website open, but as you can see, it's acting just like a regular Chrome browser would. I can come in and search. I can come up here, type in what I search, and we have all the functionality just like we do at our desktop. If we need a keyboard, we pop the keyboard open again, or you could have a wireless keyboard hooked up. So if we need an on-screen keyboard, if you can use a wireless keyboard or mouse. You can also plug in the keyboard via USB in the back on the computer. But if you come here, we can go to settings, and then we come to ease of access, and then from that point we want to click keyboard, turn on-screen keyboard, then it's going to pop up for us right here, and then we come down here and right click, then it's going to say pin to taskbar, which I'll move this out the way, pin to taskbar, and now once we exit out, you'll see we always have a keyboard at the bottom. Next, before we dive into the whiteboard software, we do have a guide, and it tells us what all the buttons mean in the whiteboard software. So we just double click to open it, and then we can scroll through, and you see it has all the buttons here, and it tells us the functionality. So if you ever need a quick reference, just open the guide. It should be on your desktop. Next, we're going to go into the whiteboard software. So you double click to open. So the whiteboard software, as you see, I do have a pen, and I also have an eraser. We don't actually have to use these to operate the board. As you notice, I haven't used them yet. So if I come here to the board, it actually allows up to 10 points of touch at one time, just using your fingers. So you can have 10 people up here writing. Realistically, you're not going to fit that many people, but it does give you that capability to have 10 people writing. To erase, I flatten my hand, and it erases. Same thing we're going to have with the eraser. It's just optional. It's up to you what you use. In other words, if you don't have the pen or eraser, if it were to get lost, if you didn't have it, you don't have to have these things to actually use the board. They're just more of a convenience. So if we come here at the bottom, it says 1 of 1. The cool thing about the whiteboard software versus a regular whiteboard, you're not going to run out of how many pages. So once I fill this page, I can just come here to the plus sign, and now it says 2 of 2. So you can keep adding pages to this point. You can build it as big as you want, go through your whole day in your classroom, and you can just keep scrolling through new pages. Over here is our menu. I'll touch it to open it. At the bottom, it says 1 of 2. Hitting the center, it goes to 2 of 2. So it's a two-sided quick reference menu. You also have all functions. I can come here, scroll down, and it'll show us some other things that we can do as well in the whiteboard software. And then I can hit this little gear, and I can actually customize my 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 for what I'm using more often in the classroom. So I can come here, let's say I want to use the zoom in feature. I drag it and I drop it wherever I want it. Just like a tablet, you can drag and move things around. You can do that in here as well. So going back to the menu, It's just that simple to change pen colors just by selecting another pen. Then, if I come here and touch it a second time, I have even more color options available. I can change the thickness of my pen, and I can change the style of pen. So you have pen. So if we select highlighter, you'll notice it's translucent. I can see the 3 lines behind me. And once I release my pen, the line will actually straighten itself out for me for whatever I'm trying to highlight. Then we can also come here and use figure pen. Figure pen, if you wanted to draw an object, a circle, a square, anything like that, you'll notice it's not the best. It actually geometrically fixes itself for me. So again, that's all your basic shapes: circles, ovals, triangles, squares, rectangles, and they'll automatically correct them how you want them. So a triangle, and they'll straighten the lines out for you. Now the key to remember how easy it is to erase. You'll notice this erases, but once I try to erase figure pen, I cannot erase figure pen. It becomes a permanent object at this point, and I'll have to come in and delete it. So I hit select, I touch on the line for what I want to delete, and then I can delete it instead of erasing it. And at this point, you'll see this menu a lot, whether it's figure pen, whether you're inserting images or things like that. You can always come in and duplicate, so that way if you make something or import it into the whiteboard, you only actually have to do it once, and then from there we can duplicate it, we can copy it, put it on other pages. We can also come in, we can always change the properties. You can change the style of line if you wanted it to be like this, put a fill color, come back out and do that. All right, now the key to remember, if we went back to writing some notes on the whiteboard, if we were still in figure pen, it's still going to think we're trying to make objects. So at this point, it's going to keep trying to correct whatever we're writing. So we want to make sure we switch back to regular pen, or I just hit this twice and hit pen again. And then from here, we can come back, and now we can write normal notes. So a couple cool features, we can come on here, write a word or a phrase. In this case, I'll write my name. We can come back to this option. We're going to hit the select option again like we chose earlier. Now I touch on the word that I just wrote, and now I can search Google for the definition of Joseph. You can also select a different search engine, or from here we can come and convert it to text. And while it's still highlighted with select, I can touch it again, and again here's those options again of duplicating, properties, and things like that. Just like we have the figure pen, we also have pre-made drawing objects. So we come here to drawing object, we select an object, I can choose a color, I can do a fill color, I can even change the line again if you want, the thickness. And then we come to our screen, we trace out how big we want the object, and the object appears. Again, here's my menu popping up. I can always duplicate, delete it, change the properties. I'll show you the rotate options. We can go left, right, 180 degrees, or you can input the specific degree in which you want to rotate. So I'm going to pull up my keyboard for this next part, and again, you can always shift the keyboard around. We come here, hit text box. Now anywhere I touch, a text box is going to show up, and then we can come in and write. Next feature is called insert image. So kind of like the snippet tool, I can come to my menu, I hit insert image. I can insert images already saved to our computer, or from this point I can also screen capture. Once I hit screen capture, it takes me to the screen behind me. So at this point I can now paste the entire page into the whiteboard, or if I just want a section, trace out what you want. I can save it directly, cancel it, or send it to the software. Once I send it to the software, I can now annotate on it. And from this point, again, here's that menu. This is where you would want to use something like this. Let's say this was a worksheet and you wanted to have multiple students come to the board. I hit duplicate, I drag it over, I hit my menu, select a pen. Okay, I want 2 kids, y'all come circle the right answer. fill in the blank, whatever it may be. That tool, when you duplicate it, gives you that capability. So in that case, when I went behind, all I had was the desktop. Let's say we pull the whiteboard back open. It's the same concept. Whatever's behind the whiteboard, once I use insert image, that's what it's going to take me to. So at this point now, send it to the software, switch back to pen, and now we can annotate directly on the screen. Our next feature is the zoom in capability. You actually have two different ways that we can zoom in. The first one is going to be a magnifying glass. So anywhere we drag, it's going to follow me. Or just come back here and touch, and it's going to blow that section up. From there, we also can go to all functions. And we can choose zoom in selection. Now zoom in selection, we trace out what we want, and then it blows it up even bigger. It's no longer interactive like the magnifying glass, but it does make it bigger. If you had somebody in the back you needed to see, you can use the zoom in selection for that. And then from there, once you're done, you just exit out, and now we're back on our regular screen. All right, so the cool thing is we also have a follow me menu, which means I can actually hold my finger down and the menu will follow me anywhere I go. So if I want to come back here, just hold your finger down, and once you're done, the menu will follow you there. So our next section is you can actually print into the whiteboard. So let's say you had a PDF, 20-something pages, multiple pages, some documents that you wanted to print directly into the whiteboard. You would treat it just like the whiteboard is an actual printer. So instead of printing to a physical printer, I can actually go in and print to the whiteboard itself. So we can come here, I go to print, destination. We want to change our printer and make sure it's going to the pen software. I click pen software, I hit print. Now in the top corner it is going to say data has been received. I touch that, and then my data is now printed into the whiteboard. So instead of printing it to a physical printer, I print it to the whiteboard. In this case, we already had 9 pages and I printed 1, so it made it 10 of 10. But if you had like a 20-page document, 30-page document, whatever it may be, it's going to show up down at the bottom, 1 of 30, and you can use it from there. And again, once it's in the whiteboard software, we now have all the annotation capabilities to write on anything that we have in the software. So at the bottom you see we have 11 of 11. Again, it didn't matter how many pages we had, but we're not going to want to just say we're looking for a certain page. We're not just going to navigate through searching for that page. I can actually come here and type in a keyword, or I can come here where it looks like multiple pages. I click on it and it's going to show me all my current pages. And then if I hit it a second time, it'll have all my pages. So again, right now we have 11, but if we had more pages, all our pages would fill this page, and then I would be able to hit that arrow to search through them. So if I wanted to go to a specific page, I just touch it and it takes me to that page. I'll double tap it. And then going back into it, whatever one, if we want to delete any, so say at the end of the day, again, it was 20 pages, but 5 of them I was going to delete. Whichever one's highlighted red, we just hit the red X and we can delete those pages. And we can also rearrange pages. So say we want page 3 to go after page 6. We take it, we drag it, and we have to go all the way past it to the gray bar to rearrange it. And then it's done. And we come back down and our pages are rearranged. Then we also have, if you want to add grid lines, I come here to my tools, I click view and show grid lines, then I hit OK, and now we have grid lines. And you can also change the size of those grid lines. Right here where grid interval, we can change the number if you want it bigger or smaller. And I'll just go back to hide. Next, at the end of our presentation, you can either delete all the work you did if it's not something you want to save. Anytime we exit out, just like any other document, it is going to ask us if you want to save it or you can delete it. But if you want to, you can also come to menu, go to our save option, and now it gives us a few options to save here. Anytime it's a brand new document, we can save it as a new file. And again, if it's one that we open and keep saving repeatedly, then just save it to the same file. But you always want to save it as a whiteboard document. That way, if you want to edit it later, you can open it and edit it. And if you want to save it as a PDF, we always recommend saving it a second time as a PDF. So you want to make sure you save it as a new file, which would be saving it as a whiteboard document so that you can use it later. Next is we have overlay mode. So just like we have the whiteboard software, we can use overlay mode. Overlay mode is the same thing as the whiteboard, except it's like a clear sheet of transparency paper. As you see, the same menu pops up, and now I can write directly on my screen. So if I were to minimize that, let's go back here to the internet and come back to overlay. Go to a new page. I can write directly on any screen, anything behind me. And again, going to my menu, I have all the same options and functionality that I have in the whiteboard software. After your presentation is over, once I hit exit, it's going to ask me to save and exit or exit without saving, or we could just cancel to make sure if we wanted to go back in and do anything else. But it does give you those capabilities. Save and exit is going to take you to the screen where you can choose where to save it to. You can create files or documents however you want to do at that point. Next up is our screen sharing capabilities. So what we want to do here is we want to open the Sharp Display Connect from the screen. We double tap to open it. Once it pops open, you want to store it up as host. So the board is always starting up as host. So now once we have it open from the board, we want to take a device. It could be a smartphone, it could be an iPad, it could be a tablet. The app can be downloaded on Android, iOS, and it's a free app that you download, and that app communicates with the software on the board. The key to it is you want to make sure you're on the same network. So my phone and the board right now are running on the same Wi-Fi. So what we do is, I'm going to come here and open it from my phone. We open SD Connect. So at this point it's searching, and it just popped up. What you want to match up is the IP address, which is 192.168.1.3. Now every IP address for every board is going to be different. If that IP address doesn't pop up, you'll notice underneath it gives us the option for manual entry. And basically at that point, we'll just come in and type this IP address, and then it should connect. So now I click on the one I want to connect to, and then at the top I hit connect. And now it says Joseph's iPhone. And if you have multiple iPads or tablets that you're using in the classroom, you can name them each individually so you know which ones are connecting. So now at this point, you'll see I'm actually screen sharing with the board. So we'll go back to our whiteboard software. Right here, it shows up on the phone. And then as a teacher walking around or a presenter, I can actually hit the side arrow and hit host control. And now I can write on the board itself. Now an iPad or a tablet obviously would be better if you're trying to actually write on it, but you can use the phone as well. So if I come here to the arrow again, at the bottom I'm going to hit send file. I'm going to hit turn shake to send on, and then I'm going to come here. I can either choose camera, pictures, or files that I already have saved, or choose camera to take a new picture. So I'm going to take a picture here of this worksheet. So now once I have the worksheet, I click use, and then this is why I have shake to send file. I just throw it to the board. So depending on the speed of the internet is how long it takes to get there. You see it says the file has been sent. So now once it's up here, we can switch back to screen sharing. It's going to show us here as well. And again, once it's on the board, now we can write directly on the paper. So if this was a worksheet for your classroom, you could take this worksheet right here, and again, we can come back to menu, select, touch on it, duplicate it, drag it across, and now we can have kids in real time working on worksheets up here at the board that they just had at their desk. So we've been running the computer on HDMI 1. You do have multiple ports here that you can hook up. In this case, we have our computer on HDMI 1. We have the app box on HDMI 2. You do have a third HDMI import where if you wanted to hook up a DVD player, you can do that. So just like a TV, you have the input button here, and it's going to have all our inputs, and we can navigate between them all. So if we wanted to jump over to, you just select HDMI 2. And it's going to transfer us over to our app box. And at this point, you'll notice that touch doesn't work. I hit this button in the middle. This is our USB switch and it transfers touch. All right, so the app box basically turns the screen into a giant iPad. Now we can download educational apps. We actually have it customizable from early learning all the way to collegiate level. You can do it to where you're learning how to write letters properly. You have sight words that you can download those apps, all the way to where at collegiate level you can dissect the heart, you can pick the right type of surgery. There's all kind of mathematical applications on here that you can download. So on this stage, on the AE app box, you can customize it to what you're doing in your classroom, again, regardless of its early learning, Head Starts, second grade math, middle school English, all the way to the collegiate level, you can customize it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to connect to Wi-Fi. So we come to settings, go to Wi-Fi, and then we select the one that we want to connect to, or school Wi-Fi obviously being the choice, or office Wi-Fi. So once we do that, we come to accounts. Because just like a phone, a tablet, an iPad, you can't download apps without putting an email account on there. In this case, we are running through Android, so it does have to be a Gmail account. If your school emails are through Gmail, you can use that one. If not, get with your administrator and y'all can make emails specifically for the app boxes. So I already have my account on here, but what you would want to do is add account, click Google, and then it'll take you to the prompt you to put in your email address and go from there. So once your email address is in, then we can now download apps. So this is where it would take us to the next step to put your email in. So from here, the next step would be going to the Play Store if I want to download apps. So I'll just click here and then go to search. And now again, this is where we can customize what you're doing in the classroom. You can now type in, say you're a second grade teacher, second grade math games, second grade educational games or learning games, and they have a variety of apps that you can choose from. So this is the Intel NUC, the computer that runs the board. Right now it's on. You see this little blue button, so whenever it's off it'll be an orange button and you just turn that on to power it up. And then you do have some USB ports right here, so if you want to plug in a flash drive or if you're going to use a wireless keyboard and mouse, you can plug in a dongle. And also on the back side there's another USB port right here that you can use as well to operate the Intel NUC. If we shift over a little bit, we do have the app box on the back as well. They'll already come, everything would be plugged in for you, so you shouldn't have to add anything to the app box over here. But you do have your HDMI and USB ports all on this side right here if needed. And everything is plugged in to the surge protector, so if you do need to move the board for any reason, once you shut it down, you only have to actually unplug one wire from the wall to move it and then plug that wire back in. You should never have to unplug anything on the actual board itself. Thank you for joining us for this tutorial. If you do have any questions, we can answer them at any time. On the front of every board is our name and phone number, so you can contact us through the phone number. Also, if you want to bookmark, I'll just open it real quick. Bookmark our website, it's www.aetouch.com, and you can bookmark it. And on there is a spot for support/contact. You can either, again, there's the number right here, or you can just fill out your questions and hit send, and somebody will get back to you shortly. And again, thank you for your purchase. We look forward to continuing to work with you guys. So again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call, because that is what we pride ourselves on, is working with the customer long after the purchase. Thank you.